Hello, 5th grade. This is Mrs. Gyoko with your flipped math lesson for today, 4-1. Today's objective is I can use mental math to divide multiples of 10 and 100 by a one-digit number. So we are going to start using division. Okay, and that's how we show it one way, and we can show it with a division box like that. Today we're just going to use the division symbol though, and we're going to be using mental math to help us divide multiples of 10 and 100. Okay, so numbers like 10, 20, 30, of course, and the multiples of 100 would be like 100, 200, 300, up to 1,000 and beyond. You can do it. It's going to be great. It's going to be easy. So here is a practice problem for us today. 5 friends want to share 1,000 comic books equally. Oops, need an S there. Can you use mental math to figure out how many comic books each person will get? So let's see what the problem is asking us to do first. Well, we're going to figure out how many comic books each person will get. The important information we have is that there are 5 friends who want to divide the 1,000 comic books. Okay, so we have our 2 numbers there. We know that there's 1,000 comic books. We know that 5 friends are going to divide them. So that gives us our equation, 1,000 divided by 5. We got to find out what that equals. So here's my equation, 1,000 divided by 5, and you can see that 1,000 is a multiple of 10 or 100 because it ends in 0. Okay, so here's what we're going to do today. We're going to be looking for patterns. We're going to be looking for patterns, and we're also going to be looking for simple multiplication and division problems. Okay, if you know multiplication, you're going to know division, because multiplication is just the inverse or the opposite of division. So you're going to have to know your multiples in order to divide. If you don't know your multiples, that's something that you need to be practicing and continue to practice. So I noticed that in the problem 1,000 divided by 5, if I took off 2 of these zeros, it looks an awful lot like 10 divided by 5. I know 10 divided by 5. 10 divided by 5 is 2. I know this because 2 times 5 equals 10. Okay, so I'm just going the opposite way and doing 10 divided by 5. That equals 2. Okay, so I know that fact family backwards and forwards, so that going to make it easy for me to divide today. If you don't know your multiplication fact families, then this may be difficult for you, but I think you're going to be just fine. Okay, so what we're going to do is use these fact families to help us figure out bigger problems like 1,000 divided by 5. So here I've written out these fact families adding the 0. So here's my first one, 10 divided by 5. I know that that equals 2. Watch what happens when I do 100 divided by 5. That equals 20. Do you notice the pattern? 1,000 divided by 5 is going to equal 200. You should notice the pattern by now. 10,000 divided by 5 is going to equal 2,000. Here's how I figure this out. Whatever I'm dividing by 5, let's start with 100 divided by 5. I'm going to use that easy fact family, 10 divided by 5. And then I'm going to ignore the extra 0. So I'm going to just take that 0 off for a minute and just concentrate on 10 divided by 5. And I underline my fact family. 10 divided by 5 is 2. Then I take that 0 that I ignored, and I'm going to annex it, and that means I'm just going to add it back on, and that's going to give me 20. Okay, so I'm going to do the same thing right here on 1,000 divided by 5. I'm going to underline the fact family, 10 divided by 5. I'm going to annex those 2 zeros and ignore them for a minute. So right now I'm going to just ignore that they're there, and all I'm going to concentrate on is 10 divided by 5. 10 divided by 5 is 2. Then I annex those zeros, adding them back on to my answer, and I get 200. Okay? Let's do that on 10,000 divided by 5. I find the fact family, 10 divided by 5. I ignore the extra zeros, and I just answer the fact family problem. 10 divided by 5 is 2. Then I annex or add back on the extra zeros. There are 3 of them, so I add on 1, 2, 3 zeros, and I get 2,000. Okay, so now I'm going to go way back up to the top problem. 1,000 divided by 5. I'm going to underline the fact family problem. 10 divided by 5 is 2. Then I annex my 2 zeros and add them back onto my answer, and I get 200. Okay, so I didn't have to use long division to figure this out. I could do this mentally in my head for the most part. So let's practice a few. 540 divided by 9. I'm going to underline the fact family. 54 divided by 9. If you know your nines, you'll know that 54 divided by 9 is 6. Then I annex the 0 and add it back onto my answer, and I get 60.